Hello, I'm Bjorn, and I do movies. And you might be wondering where the hell I am and why I'm in a suit to do a freaking writing project. What am I doing? You're like, Bjorn, why are you in that suit? Are you the professor guy again? Are you the professor guy from that video where you were in the exact same position, wearing the exact same clothes? Did you just record these at the same time? And all of these questions are ridiculous. Look, I am clearly in a suit and at a funeral home because this might be the video that kills this channel. Look, this video is a massive swing. I'm taking a risk here. Don't let them tell you that the movie writer guy Bjorn doesn't take risks. Doing Captain WW2 as a whole film, it's bold. it's certainly bold, especially in this YouTube climate right now. But look, I have a very good story I want to tell. I'm very passionate about this one. And this is going to be a controversial video. There's just no way around it. It's going to happen. But hey, I think it's good. I think it's a story worth telling, and it's kind of a plot crucial story that needs to be told now. I've done it again with these Bjorgens. I knew once I opened this can of worms, there would be no going back because I could do this for almost every character I ever put in a script. You like that Terramander Reach one? You like the Mind Boggler one? You like the Ghost Eye one? I could do one of those for literally any of them. And now that I can, I will. So it's a problem. But this one especially intrigued me. And the challenge was, how do you take a guy that looks like, I don't even think I can show him on screen, but if you go Google up this character's name, you know what it is. Look at that character. How do you take that guy and make him a compelling villain with actual depth? I couldn't ignore that challenge, right? Like, that's too fun to not try. I mean, it's like the ultimate test, right? I don't know. But anyway, all this to say, this video will have a lot of self-censoring. I'm sorry, it's stupid. It's absolutely unbelievably stupid. But if you've ever tried to watch a history video on this time period, you're gonna hear a lot of mustache man, and it's for good reason. If you say these names, YouTube will ban you regardless of the context. Obviously, I don't support any of these movements or any of these characters. These are all horrible, horrible people, historically characters. I don't know. On the actual villain I'm making this video about, I'll leave y'all to decide what you think about him. Um, but yeah, really, when you get down to it, this is a story about family. Or we did the meme, but no, really, it's a story about family, and that's what really counts. So, without further ado, let's get into the WW2 villain captain origin. God rest this channel's soul. Can we get a rip for Bjorn Does Movies in the chat, please? We're going to open on the DC logo. It's red, and strange bubbles begin to float around it. Gradually, we fade in to see a human baby floating in a bubbling glass tube. The camera moves back and shifts to the side. We see tons of other tubes, all with human children. Some are babies, others are toddlers. A few are older kids, maybe 9, 10. On the wall, we see a symbol for the bad guys of World War II banner. It says, text on screen says, Berlin, 1938. A man in a leather jacket, a specific sort of leather jacket worn by a specific sort of officer in World War II, enters the room. Several men in lab coats stop and salute him. One approaches him. This is Sigmund Krieger, who is a DC Comics character. If you're curious, you can look him up. I literally cannot read his biography without getting banned off YouTube immediately. The leather jacket guy says, Guten Tag, gentlemen. Sigmund, it is good to see you. It's been too long since you locked yourself away here. I hear you have something for me. Sigmund, in an American accent, which might be a little surprising, but I've altered his backstory a little bit, not that we're really going to go into it much in the script, says, yes, something that will change the country. As the Fuhrer ordered, I have been developing the second part of the contingency plan. The leather guy says, yes, I know this. Show me. Sigmund says, right this way. He leads the man past racks of chemicals in human bodies. Some are being dissected, others are still floating in tubes. Finally, he leads them to a large room. We see several rooms sectioned off by glass, and one of them we see a young boy. He's maybe 7 or 8. He plays with a toy tank that has a symbol of World War II villain sticker on the side of it. The leather guy says, this is him. Yes, he is the first. Subject number 1, Eins, our first successful clone. He is stronger than the average boy, more handsome and of more pure Aryan blood. He is almost perfect. The other guy says, almost. Sigmund says, it is not done yet. We will need to bring the others out first. Only one can be the captain. That is the nature of the contingency. And the other ones, they are behind you. The man in the leather suit turns around and sees a wall of glass containers. Each one has mostly identical children floating in it. They have some variation, but they're all very similar, all blonde, blue-eyed, and white. Sigmund says, it will be the personalities we must develop and choose from. The captain must be molded into the perfect model, as the Fear has ordered. And how will you pick one? Sigmund says, it will be a process. We're going to start waking these up tomorrow. The man in the leather suit nods his head. Good work here. The Führer has put hope in you to push his dreams of science and magic made one. You have done good work so far. Create the contingency and pray we do not need it. I will acknowledge that my German accent slips a little into Russian. I'm sorry, I'm not that kind of European. I can't do it. I'm trying my best. Bear with me. As he watches the boy in the room, a blonde woman in her 20s enters from a side door. She bends down and begins to play with the boy. The leather guy tilts his head in confusion. What is this? Who is she? Sigmund Krieger says, she is the mother. Why? Sigmund Krieger says, so the boys have something to latch on to, someone who loves them. It is very important at the end. After all, they will need a reason to truly hate the Americans, something deeper than propaganda. She is the reason. It's tragic what will happen to her. To think the Americans will drop a bomb perfectly on her home. The boys will be devastated to have lost their mother. The man in the leather suit smiles. I see. Molding them into the perfect soldier. You have done wonderful work indeed. The Reich will honor you. Sigmund says, it is for the Reich. I need no honoring. That is service in itself. I will do anything to help this program succeed because I believe in it. The leather guy says, I will admit I had my moral questions about bringing in a German American to the cause. Such is not worth the risk of a spy, I argued to the Führer, but he was a friend of yours and recommended your work. I must admit I was wrong. Once again, the Führer shows uncanny wisdom. The program will succeed. I trust you. Auf Wiedersehen, sir. He turns and walks away. The camera moves around to linger on the children in the glass chamber. The screen goes dark, and we get the title drop. Captain World War II villain, Bjorn. We're going to fade into the young boy we saw earlier sitting in a plain chair in his small room. This is Ainz. He's the main character of the short, and well, we all obviously know who he is. He's reading a book. We can see it's entitled The Superiority of the, I'm not allowed if I can say this in this concept, blank race. As he reads, he hears humming. He looks at the vent on the bottom of the wall of his cell. He lays down and begins to talk into the vent. Zwei, are you there? Can you hear me? When I'm reading the dialogue for the kids, I'm not going to try to do the German accent. I'm going to be honest, I can't do it, and it would make this script so much worse, so we're just going to go normal. Zwei, are you there? Can you hear me? There's a slight pause, and the humming stops. Yes, Ainz, I'm here. Ainz says, where have you been? I was worried. Zwei says, they took me to the training room. Ainz says, oh, I'm sorry. Zwei said, it wasn't that bad this time. Not like what happened to you last time. It's okay, though. It is to make us stronger for the Reich. Ainz nods his head. Yeah, it'll make us stronger. We're going to cut to the other cell. We see another young boy with blonde hair. He leans against the wall next to the vent on his side. This is Vi. He's the other character in the script. Vi says, they said something to me today. They mentioned there's going to be something big for us soon. A test of some sort. They didn't tell me anything about it, though. Said it was special. Ainz says, hopefully it'll finally let us prove we're worthy. They brought me new books today, so they must be pleased with me. Zwei says, oh, what? New books? Lucky, I haven't gotten books in months. What'd you get? Ainz says, a book about the Aryans, and one about the life of Mustache Man. But my favorite is the one I got about the Rhinelands. Zwei says, the Rhinelands? Ainz says, it's where we are. This is the Rhinelands, Germany. But Zwei,
The book describes so many things I've never heard of. There's these things out here, forests, and they're huge masses of trees that go on for miles and miles. Zwei says, that's great, but what's a tree? We're going to see Ainz sit in his plain white painted cell thinking, well, I don't know exactly. The book describes them as tall, maybe like 6 of us stacked on top of each other. And they have branches. They go out in all directions like fingers, but made of wood like our tables. And they're strong too. People can climb up them. They talk about it in the book. Zwei looks confused. He says, are you sure you're not making this up? Ainz says, no, it's true. The book said so. And on these wooden branches, they're leaves. They're like these flat green things that cover the branches of the tree like hair. And there's hundreds of these trees up there. They're everywhere. Zwei closes his eyes, almost picturing it. He says, oh, wow. I want to see one. Ainz says, me too. I want to go up there, Zwei. More than anything. Maybe even more than I want to help the Reich. Zwei stops. His eyes go wide. Don't let them hear you say that. Ainz says, they'd understand, right? If I don't want to be the contingency, they'd let me go, right? Zwei says, but you want to be the contingency. We all do. It is an honor to our father, and he needs us. He needs our help. Ainz nods his head. Yes. Yeah, you're right. I got carried away. I want to see the forests. But I guess I can do that when I'm the contingency. Zwei says, Could you read the book to me? I want to hear about the trees. Ainz nods his head. Yeah. He begins to read from the book. The camera pulls out of the fake wall to the left of Ainz, and we see the library again. A man dressed in a lab coat with a symbol for World War II on his shoulder holds a pad and stares at Ainz with headphones on. He takes them off and sets them down. One of his scientists runs up to him. Sigmund says, this is an interesting development. They're talking to one another. We didn't expect that so soon. We may have to move up the timetable. The scientist says, there was always going to be some variable. Sigmund says, yes, I suppose. Scientist says, I can move them apart or block the hole for a while. Sigmund shakes his head. No, let them talk. I can work with this. We go ahead with the blood maker test. I need to see if these boys have what it takes. These doubts they have can be ironed out, but this, they must be willing to do this. The scientist says, are they ready? Sigmund Krieger says, they are. Prep it. Let's see if they've taken their lessons to heart. We're going to cut to Ainz in his cell. The door to his cell clicks open and a woman walks in. It's the mother. Ainz says, Mom! He runs up to her and hugs her tight. She says, Ainz, it's good to see you. How have you been? He says, good. They brought me new books, see? He runs over to his pile of books and points out to the new ones. He says, these are incredible. Have you ever heard of trees? The mother says, trees? Ainz says, yeah, there's something called a plant, and they grow up high in the air, and they're made of wood like the table. The mother says, yes, I've seen trees, Ainz. They're beautiful. Ainz looks shocked. You've seen one? So they're real? The mother says, most people have. Ainz says, oh, I see. You think they'll let me see one day? The mother shakes her head. The mother nods her head. I'm sure. But they've sent me to fetch you. Ainz's face grows nervous. Have I done something wrong? The mother shakes her head. No, Ainz, no. It's just a test. Ainz says, oh, okay. The mother leads him out the door and through concrete halls to the laboratory. She takes him up the doors to a room. Ainz looks at it with fear. He looks at her and says, Do you know what's in there? I've never been to this room. The mother says, I don't. But you'll be okay. You're brave. She looks both ways nervously, then bends down to look him in the eyes. She touches his shoulder and smiles genuinely. You're a good boy. Just do what's right, and don't let them break you. Ainz enters the room. The mother watches him go in and shuts the door. She stomps away in a fury. She enters the hallway and finds Simon Krieger moving towards the room. The mother says, we need to talk now. Simon Krieger says, I'm busy at the moment, but I suppose you can tag along for this. Come now. He leads her to a room with a large mirror in it. Besides that, the room has a few control panels, but not much else. Sigmund says, so what's made you treat me so rudely, mother? The mother says, that is not my name. Sigmund Krieger says, "Here it is." The mother says, "What you are doing to them is barbaric. It is unfair the way you treat them. They are children. They've never seen the outside. They haven't lived. It is inhuman." Sigmund Krieger looks at her with genuine disgust. Inhuman. Every day, brave Aryans are dying in the war. And for what? To deny the superiority of race I can't mention. Something which is so evidently true. That is inhumane. These children could save them all. If you care for the fatherland, you will do your duty. You are the mother. You are to love them, spread what we will to them, and nothing more. They are experiments. You promised me you would remember that. You must remember that. Can you do this? The mother says, "You don't frighten me. I've seen men like you before. Petty little men." Sigmund Krieger laughs with genuine joy. "Oh, dear woman, I don't think you know who I am at all. You forget your place in all of this. You are, you think you are important. You are nothing, replaceable. And if you think I don't have the teeth to do it, then you are mistaken. For as little as you know about me, I know a lot about you. I know where your husband works. He doesn't know it, but he works for me. Easy to get to. I know where your children go to school. I'll let you know that their teacher is one of ours. We are everywhere. And this is a war. Children go missing all the time. Men don't come home from work. This project is more important than anything your children or your husband will ever do, and their miserable lives. They are expendable even more than you. Do you understand what I am saying to you?" The mother nods her head with horror in her eyes. He says, "Good." She says, "I'll be going now. I'm sorry to have bothered you." Sigmund says, "No, you stay. Watch." He presses a button and the mirror turns opaque. Through the window, we can see a man tied to a metal chair. He's clearly American and is even still in his uniform. Sigmund Krieger presses a button and another door opens. Young Ines enters the room. Sigmund presses another button and it activates a microphone. He picks it up and holds it to his lips. "There is a knife next to the man in front of you, Ines. Pick it up." The mother looks at him. "No." Sigmund says, "Oh, yes. It's to desensitize the children to violence. The contingency must be willing to kill any enemy at any cost. It is important to the cause." We're going to cut to the room with Ines. He looks at the knife on the table. It's long and sharp, a German military knife. The American tied to the chair looks at it too, his eyes filled with terror. Sigmund says, "I gave you an order. Pick it up." Ines moves towards the table. The young American tied to the chair begins to panic. Ines picks up the knife. Sigmund says, "Good. Now stick it in his heart." Ines says, "What?" Sigmund says, "Kill the man in front of you. Believe me, if the situations were reversed, he would do it to you in a second. Stab him now." The man looks around wildly. He's clearly confused and scared. Ines says, "Why?" Sigmund says, "Because he is an American soldier. We caught this one killing a woman. A good Aryan woman like your mother. Some were children. We caught this one killing women. Good Aryan women like your mother. Some were children. You can still see that blood in her shirt. That is theirs. He is a war criminal and a spreader of hate. Kill him." Ein says, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. He looks afraid." Sigmund says, "He should be, Eins. The contingency must be willing to do what is necessary. You understand that, don't you?" Heinz says, "Yes." Sigmund says, "Then do what is necessary now. You know he deserves it." Ein nods. He holds the knife up, and it trembles in his little hands. Then he stabs it into the man's heart. The American lets out a scream, and blood sprays across Eins's face. He begins to cry as the man spasms, then dies. We're going to cut back to the control room. The mother looks even more horrified than before. She's trembling watching the scenes. Sigmund has a satisfied smile. He says, "I told you. The children have what it takes. They just need to be desensitized. Keep up the good work, mother. And do not let these flights of fancy take you again, else you will not like the consequences. Trust me on that." We're going to cut to Eins's cell. He enters the cell through the door. It's clear that they bathed him as there's no more blood across his face. His cell is exactly how he remembers, except for a single poster of a real tree hung on the wall, a reward for what he did. He enters the room and looks at the tree with a frown. He should be excited to finally see one, but something feels wrong. Maybe it just wasn't what he expected it to be. He sits down on the floor next to the vent and leans his head back against the wall and speaks into the small window. Hey, Zvai, are you there? We hear Zvai's voice. Yeah, I'm here. I'm not usually anywhere else. Ein says, I guess that's right. Did they bring you to someone today? Zvai says, yeah. Ein says, was it an American? Zvai says, no, he was British. I don't quite understand the difference. They talk the same way, right? But they told me there's a difference. Ein says, he was scared, Zvai. The man in my room, he was shaking. Zvai asks, did you do it? Ein says, yeah, did you? Zvai says, yeah, I did. Mine was scared too, he cried. Ein says, they say they're monsters, but they don't seem like monsters to me. Zvai says, they are. You know what they've told us about what these men do. They're not like us. The father is right. They're evil. You've seen the same movies I have. Ein says, how do you know? Zvai says, because they have to be, right? They have to be. Ein says, Zvai, what happens to me if I'm not cut out for the contingency? Zvai says, I don't know, but I'm not going to let that happen. I don't know, but we're not going to let that happen. It's dangerous. We will both become a contingency together. The next morning, we see them take Eins and Zvai to a room. They lock them in chairs and use an apparatus to hold their eyes open. They force their eyes open and make them watch videos of violence. Animals being killed, humans being shot, footage of war. Sort of a reference to A Clockwork Orange, if you've seen that famous scene. Tears leak from Eins's eyes as he watches the footage. Next, we see them in a room together. They're being trained to kill using plastic knives. They attack dummies and other soldiers and even each other in mock fights. The guard in the room says, kill, and expects them both to stab with the plastic knife at the same time. We're going to cut to another room. Once again, we see Eins tied to a chair. This time he's alone in a plain concrete room. A soldier approaches him with a needle filled with red liquid. Eins looks at it with fear and says, what is that? Soldier says, it's medicine. It'll make you stronger. He sticks the needle into Eins's arm and injects it. We're going to hard cut back to the cells. The screen is going to be sort of split so that we can see both cells as they both lean against their wall and talk to each other through the vents. Ein says, I'm scared, Zvai. What's going to happen next? The training is getting harder, and they're teaching us to kill more. They've started injecting things into me. Zvai says, me too. They say it's going to make us stronger, but it's been making me feel sick. Ein says, Zvai, if they make me kill another person, I don't think I can do it. Zvai says, you have to. Ein says, I think there's something wrong here, Zvai. I think they're lying to us. Zvai says, maybe, but it doesn't change things. Ein says, shouldn't it? Zvai says, we both agree the Reich is on the right side of history. What we are doing supports it, and besides, if you don't do what they want, I don't know what happens to you. Ein says, yeah, I guess you're right. Zvai says, be strong, Eins. We'll make it. I'll protect you. Eins nods his head, and I'll protect you. I promise. Whatever it takes. We're going to see Eins stand from the vent and lay on his bed. He picks up his book on the Rhinelands and begins to read. He smiles as he reads about the trees and the forests and looks at his poster on the wall. We'll make it, he tells himself. We're going to cut to the morning. We hear sirens going off. Eins jumps out of his bed confused. He begins to talk to the vent. Zvai, what's happening? Zvai says, I don't know, the alarm is... We hear a door crash open through the vent. We're going to cut to Zvai's room. One of the scientists bursts into the room with a needle in his hand. Zvai tries to back off, but he's too slow. The needle goes into his neck and he falls to the ground unconscious. Eins yells, Zvai, what happened? Zvai! Suddenly, Eins's door opens and a different scientist rushes in and injects him. The screen goes black. We're going to cut to a testing room. We see Eins on the floor of the room. He gradually sits up. Eins says, what happened? He looks around the room and we see it. Another person tied to a chair. This time, it's a child. They have a mask on their face with the Star of David sewn into it. As Ines climbs to his feet, we hear a voice come over the intercom. The boy in front of you is a Jew. The crackling speaker echoes across the room. Ines stares at the unconscious boy in front of him, his face covered by a bag. He sold information to Americans about the soldiers of the Reich. They were killed. Now he must die. Pick up the knife and stab him, just like before. Ines says, but he's a kid like me. Sigmund says, he is a race which I will not mention. Kill him. For the Rhinelands. Ines looks over at the knife on the table. We're going to cut to Zwei. Zwei stands in a nearly identical room. He is clearly still partially drugged. He holds a hand to his head. In front of him is also a boy with a bag on his head. A Star of David is equally stitched into this one, just like in Ines' room. We hear the internet kick on. We hear the intercom kick on. The boy in front of you is a Jew. Ines says, a Jew? Sigmund says, yes, we captured this one yesterday evening. Zwei says, so this thing is, it's one of them? Sigmund says, yes. This one tried to hide in a local barn like a pig. He squallered in the filth and the muck, and when a local girl came to check on the barn, the Jew killed her, fearing he would be caught. She was only 13. There is a knife on the table next to you. Pick it up and stab him. Zwei looks at the knife. He reaches over and picks it up. We're going to cut to Ines. He says, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. Sigmund says, why do you hesitate? This is the enemy, a being more vile than any on the planet. That is what you prepare to fight. Kill it. Ines says, I want to see his face. I want to know what these monsters look like. He reaches for the mask. Sigmund says, no, don't. His face is too horrible to look upon it. But it's too late. Ines lifts away the bag, revealing the face of Zwei. He's unconscious from the drugs they injected into him. The Captain WW2 theme begins to play ominously as he stares at Zwei. Ines' face grows a look of horror. Zwei? Why? Sigmund Kruger says, there was only ever going to be one contingency, boy. This had to happen eventually. Ines gets it. His eyes grow wide with horror and understanding. They wanted them to be friends. They made the rooms designed that way on purpose. They wanted them to talk. Ines tries to go for the knife as the door to the lab opens up. They stick him with a needle and he slumps to the floor. The knife clatters to the ground. We see Sigmund Krieger enter the room and look at Ines as he slips away into unconsciousness. He says, how disappointing. I thought it would be you. I thought you would be the captain. So clever, but you were too weak after all. Ines closes his eyes, and the two guards take the bag off Zwei and put it over Ines. We're going to cut to Zwei. Zwei holds a knife in his hands. In front of him, the boy is still tied to the chair. The boy we know to be Ines. Zwei says, he killed a girl? Sigmund Krieger says, yes. She looked a bit like your mother, with flowing blonde hair and kind blue eyes. A worthy girl of the right breeding. He beat her to death with a pole. She died screaming. I was told that the boy laughed. These creatures hate us because they are covetous of our superiority. Destroy the vile thing once and for all. Do it and you will be rewarded. Zwei says, for the Rhinelands. The knife shakes in his hands. He takes a step closer to the boy in the chair. Zwei says, I hate you. You'll ruin this country. You made us lose the first war and I won't let you take the second from us. The Reich will reign. He takes the knife and plunges it into the boy with a scream. Blood leaks around the wound, soaking the cloth clothing. Zwei scrambles back in horror at what he did. The boy doesn't even spasm as he dies. Zwei just stares for a moment. Then the radio clicks on. Sigmund Krieger's voice comes over the intercom. I am so proud of you. You showed courage and ferocity facing such a vile creature. But I must admit I lied to you. You see, the contingency can have no weakness. It can have no connections or family, no friends. They are a vulnerability, something that can be used as a weapon against someone as important as the contingency. I want you to take the mask off. The Captain WW2 score builds once more in its more sinister cadence as he takes the mask off the body, revealing the cold, dead face of Ines. There's a moment where Zwei just stares. Then he screams. He screams so loud and so horrific that his voice goes hoarse. We're going to cut to him simply sitting in the cell. Only his cell is not the same as the last time we saw it. A young tree sapling grows in a pot in the corner of his room, a reward for what he did. He just stares at it with sunken eyes, tears flowing down his face and his eyes red from crying. After a moment, he sits on the floor next to the vent. He leans in and whispers, "Eins?" But the boy never answers. Zwei begins to weep on the floor of the lab, alone, truly alone for the first time in his life. We're going to cut to some time later. We see Zwei is a little bit older now. Sigmund Krieger takes him from opens the door to his cell and grabs him. He says, "Zwei, come with me. I need to show you something." He begins to lead him through the halls. Zwei says, "I don't want to talk to you." Sigmund Krieger says, "Oh, come now, Zwei. You are the one. There are more tests and trials, but I know it. I want to show you something. Come, follow me. I think it will make things clear for you. It's time you know what the contingency is." He leads him deeper into the lab. They walk by room after room, some exploring different experiments, maybe some classic World War II villains being experimented on. There's a bunch of these around. They finally enter a room labeled the contingency. We see runic symbols on whiteboards all over the room. They're labeled in bracket sets, 22 in each set. Zwei asks, "What is this?" Sigmund says, "It is part of an operation to understand a device which we uncovered beneath the Great Pyramid of Giza." Zwei says, "The what?" The head scientist, Sigmund says, "Not important. The device itself is what is important, and it is here." He gestures to a glass case. Inside, we see the time sphere. The head scientist says, "We believe it can alter the flow of time. It is an ancient piece of alien technology given to the Egyptians, and it is quite beyond us. We do not know from the text recovered by the Egyptian team that it requires a certain sequence to activate. In its heyday, the Egyptians used this device to conquer the world and make themselves the most powerful force in the world. There are some 57 symbols spread across the sphere, and each one has to be rotated in exactly the right way. Once we discover the sequence, the first section of the contingency will be complete." Zwei says, "You mean that you could go back in time?" Sigmund says, "Yes, and change things if one wishes. It is a contingency if we lose the war. We can send people back to right the mistakes we may have made. Once we crack the code, this war cannot be lost. We would merely go back and correct any mistakes." Zwei eyes the device almost hungrily. It's very clear he's thinking of his brother, all the things he could fix. He could save Eins with this. The head scientist says, "But this device is only part of the contingency. You are the other part. We need someone to go back in time who is better than the average man. You have shown how utterly ruthless you can be, and now we will make you stronger than any other man. It will be a merger between all of our knowledge of science and that of the arcane, and when it is done, you will be the perfect leader, the unstoppable warrior, the perfect villain from World War II. You will be the captain of the villains from World War II." He throws back a cover to reveal the Captain Villain from World War II comic suit. Sigmund says, "It is beautiful, and it will be yours. But first we must make sure you're ready." Zwei looks at him with new ferocity in his eyes, new hope, new motivation. "How?" Sigmund says, "With effort. The question is, boy, do you hate the Allies? They destroyed the forests of Germany and killed the German people. Do you hate them enough to destroy them?" Zwei eyes the device once more, then turns back to Sigmund with barely described hatred. "I do. Then we begin. I know you know this, but there were other children like you in Eins. Ones made in a similar way to you. They are also candidates, though I think you are the one who will win. Prove it to me. Starting tomorrow, you will be locked in rooms with them. And you will be forced to kill them, as they tried to kill you. Whoever wins will be the captain. It is simple. Prove your worth in the battlefield." We're going to cut to a nice home in the middle of Germany. Two men knock on the door, and it opens up to reveal the mother. She looks quite confused. We see one of the men is Sigmund. He takes off his hat and nods to her. She says, Doctor, to what do I owe the visit? Sigmund says, It's time you fulfilled your role, mother. She says, My what? Sigmund pulls his pistol and puts a bullet in her brain before she can even respond. Her body falls to the ground with a thump. The two other men next to him step over it. A young man about the mother's age comes running in. He screams for only a moment before the scientist shoots him. We hear a baby crying from upstairs. Sigmund immediately begins to work his way up the stairs. As he does, the other scientist drags the two bodies into one room. A moment later, we hear a gunshot, and the crying stops. Sigmund comes back down the stairs, sliding a pistol back into its holster. He steps outside and comes back with a can of gasoline. He tosses it all over the building, then lights it. The three men leave the building as it burns behind them, the mother and her family still inside. We're going to cut to Sigmund and Zwei standing in a hallway before a door. It's labeled Combat Room. Zwei asks, Why? Why did you make me do that to Eins? Sigmund says, I told you, to make you stronger. The boy was weak, not worthy of being a part of the race, but you are perfect. You're unlike him in every way. That clearly hurts Vi. He looks up at Sigmund with hatred. It's clear in his eyes, and seeing it makes Sigmund smile. There it is. That is the look I have been hoping to see all along. I will make you the most powerful man on earth. As I told you, everything we know about science and the arcane will make you perfect. Zwei says, Do it then. Sigmund says, Eager are we, but first I have told you must prove yourself one last time. I'm sure you know you were not... We already read this. You've shown me how vicious you can be, and I need you to do it again. I'm going to place you. Inside this room is one of the remaining candidates. You will take this. Sigmund hands him a knife. Only one of you will leave. Show me that you are worthy. Show me you are the most vicious and most Aryan of them all. Show me you are the captain. Zwei says, I'll do anything. Put me in the room. Sigmund says, Good, good. He starts to open the door, but Zwei stops him. One more thing. My mother. I haven't seen her in a while. Where is she? Does she hate me for what I did to Eins? Answer me honestly. Sigmund says, Oh, son. They didn't tell you. I just assumed. She was killed. Zwei says, Well, that's not possible. She was here not that long ago. Sigmund Krieger says, It was an Allied bombing run. They're growing closer to us now. An American bomb took her life. A tragedy, one you will help prevent in the future. Zwei says, Dead, but she was the last. I have no one left. Tears begin to run down his eyes. Sigmund Krieger says, Come, Zwei. It's time for you to rise to your position. Time for you to be Captain WW2. You can get your revenge for her. You must almost stop the other candidates. We're going to cut to a montage as Zwei enters the room holding the knife in his hand. Another boy just like him is there holding his knife. He looks nervous, shaking, scared. Zwei isn't. The fight is brutal and quick. Zwei plunges the knife into the boy's neck. We see a montage of many, many other kids coming into the room. He kills 8 in total, brutally, effectively. With each one, it seems to get easier for him. And with each one, his eyes become more hollow, more empty, and he becomes more filled with fury. It's clearly disgusting him, but he doesn't care. He'll do anything for the chance to save Eins. Finally, we see him covered in blood, standing over a body, the final one. Sigmund enters the room clapping. You've done it, as I knew you would. You have become the contingency, Zwei. A perfect credit to your race. I will make you 100 times stronger than men. We begin to hear the song Somme by, I think it's Rammstein. It's a German band. Once you listen to some of these songs, I'm using one in this and one in the Good Eye Guys too. You'll understand why I picked them for this script. Anyway, that song begins to play. I can make you stronger than 100 men. We're going to cut as the montage begins to flicker through. We see them injecting 6 different colored serums into Zwei's arms. He screams as his body augments itself, becoming stronger. We see a shot of him smashing concrete with his bare hands. Sigmund says, I will make you smarter than the best physicists on the planet. Again, they inject him, this time directly into his brain. He spasms on the operating table as they inject chemicals into his brain. We see a shot of him reading books. They surround him in a larger room than he was in before. They mostly seem to be books on the art of war and conquest. Sigmund says, I will make you faster than a horse. We see them injecting chemicals into his legs. He becomes faster, almost inhumanly quick. Sigmund says, most of all, I will make you a god. You will live 10 lifetimes. Your body will be infused with the arcane, magic to bolster your strength. We see him strapped to a stone table. Arcane symbols surrounds Vi, drawn in blood. The camera lingers up, and we can see the shape of a pentagram surrounding the table. It's carved into the stone below. On each end of the pentacle, we see young women tied to chairs. Soldiers go by and kill them one by one, letting their blood flow into the pentagram. It begins to grow red. We see the pentagrams grown all across Zvi's body. They begin to glow as he's infused with demonic magic, just like John Constantine. A blood pact is paid. Zvi begins to levitate off his stone pedestal as the ritual continues. We see men in robes chanting. Sigmund Krieger places his hands on a Necronomicon, then cuts it, letting his blood spill onto the book. We cut back to the room with the dead child. Sigmund says, you will be the perfect molding of German knowledge of the science and the occult, the perfect warrior, the true captain of the Reich, and no one will stop you. We're going to cut to Zvi's room. He lays on his bed reading a book. Suddenly an alarm goes off. Unlike the ones before, this one is louder and fills the halls in addition to his room. We hear a voice crackle over the intercom. We hear Krieger's voice. The Americans have found us. We are being invaded. Men, fight. The contingency. We need you. Zvi slowly gets out of his bed and stretches. He grabs a few things, including a book on the Rhinelands, Eins's book. Then he smashes through the wall of his cell like it's nothing. In the halls, we see chaos. Soldiers run back and forth, and we hear gunfire. The camera's going to move down the hall, spinning down a few hallways, and then we see them. The Justice Society of America. Jay Garrick shoots forward, grabbing guns out of the hands of soldiers. We see the original Black Canary let out a scream that blows them away. Wonder Woman rushes down the hall, punching soldiers as she goes. We see Our Man swallow a pill. He seems to let out a scream, and then kicks a soldier with such force that it sends him slamming into a wall with cracks. Lastly, we see Dr. Fate. He hovers down with his cape and touches the ground. We see a pulse of golden magic shoot through the building. He says, there is dark magic here. Very powerful. We must make haste. The scales need to be balanced. Jay Garrick says, way ahead of you, Doc. He shoots down the hall with a burst of speed. We're going to cut to Zvi in Dr. Krieger's office. He pulls a lever and a secret passageway is revealed. He walks over to a locked filing cabinet and crushes it with his bare hands. He pulls out a few important papers and tucks them into his bag. On one, we can clearly see a copy of the attempts to make the combination to the time sphere. Suddenly, Krieger enters the room. There's a large gash on his forehead, and it drips with blood. He looks confused and locks eyes with Zvi. What are you doing here? Stop them! Zvi says, oh, perfect. You found me. You saved me the effort of hunting you down and all this. Sigmund Krieger says, they are taking the sphere. Stop them. Zvi says, no, I think not. You know, Fabius almost defeated Hannibal Barca, the greatest military leader the world has ever seen, by refusing to fight him. If it had not been for the bloodthirsty readership of the Roman Empire replacing him, they would have won without the Battle of Cannae. That, I think, now is the right call. I've read the reports, the war is lost and the contingency is needed, but I will bide my time. I will wait for the enemy to become weakened by its own success. Yes, I think the Fabian defense will work well. They will forget about us in time, and they won't even think to wait for us. They will grow tired and sluggish and competent and complacent. It will be a total surprise, and it will be over for them before they know it happens. As you said, I will live 10 lifetimes. I will prepare, and when I come back with the time sphere, I will set everything right. Sigmund Krieger looks disgusted. He says, you're a coward. A disgrace to the Reich. Zvi says, that is where you are wrong. I believe in it perhaps more than you do. You, who's so willing to spill good blood for the sake of creating monsters, know better than a man like Frankenstein. You are everything wrong with the Reich, but you will not be a problem when I fix the timeline. It will be as it should be. Sigmund Krieger says, you can't. Zvi says, I can. You made it so, Doctor. Your work on me was good. Sigmund Krieger looks for a way out. He tries to run, but Zwei grabs him. I owe you something for what you made me do to Eins, my brother. He was good. Everything Germany should try to strive for once rule is guaranteed, but you. Zwei snaps his arm like a twig, and Sigmund screams. You killed him. And I think you killed my mother too, just to hurt me deeper. I'm smart enough now to see it. How deep your deception ran. You succeeded, I suppose. You made me what you wanted, but that was your mistake. Unlike Eins, I have no moral hang-ups on killing. Especially not killing you. Sigmund Krieger says, please. Zwei says, I know the pacts you made with demonic forces to give me this power. I wonder what torments await you in hell. The camera is going to zoom out into the concrete as we hear screaming from Sigmund Krieger, the sound of blood and bones cracking. Then we're going to cut. We see an older Zwei, maybe in his 40s. He looks off into the distance. Text on screen says 2024. We'll see that he's looking out over a beautiful orchard. Trees of all different kinds surround a nice house in the middle of what's very clearly Argentina. He wears a nice suit, but he looks lost and sad. And he also looks young, still in his 30s or 40s. A younger man approaches him, his assistant, and says, I'm sorry to disturb your meditation, sir, but there has been news. Zwei says, it's all right, just reminiscing. Tell me. The assistant says, the probe you launched into the Justice League, sir, the device you seek. We have confirmation. It's there. It's in their secured storage of dangerous objects. But they don't seem to understand what it is they have. Zwei says, excellent. The plan moves forward then. Assistant says, sir, I don't mean to contradict you. I know how intelligent you are, but the Get Out guys, I've looked into them. They are talented, as you say, but they're also reckless and destructive, unpredictable. They are not stupid. Well, mostly. They will not take this job. Zwei says, they will. I have seen to it. We are going to make their lives hell. I have my friend Dr. Krill arranging another terrible job for them. It will earn them more money and a hell of a lot of work. I will do this several times, all through shell companies and old allies of the cause. The fools do not even realize it's happening. They are just getting bad job after bad job, and then I will arrive, like a knight in shining armor. I will offer them everything, more money than they can imagine, all the wealth taken from Germany that I own, which is most of it. And all they have to do is take one little spear from a vault. They will not even know its significance. Assistant says, the Justice League's vault. Beyond that, everything we own, it's absurd. You would give them that much money? Zwei says, absurd. Let them have it. I have no need for the money after this. And when I rewrite history, it will mean nothing. After this, things will go back to normal, how they should have been. The Reich will succeed, and many of those good Aryans who died will not in our new world. Hire the Get Out guys. Bring them here and make them take the job. I know men like them. They are easy to predict. Men of very little scruples, willing to do anything for money and with no moral questioning. In short, they are pawns. But even pawns can capture a king if the game is played right. And at last, the contingency will be fulfilled. The assistant says, as you order, Captain. He bows before Zwei and moves off to fulfill the order, once again leaving Zwei alone. He looks off towards the trees, and a tear runs down his eyes. He says, Eins, I'm coming. And that's where we're going to end WW2 Villain Origin.
All right, well there you go. I did a little bait and switch for you. Made you think one character was someone who they really weren't. Brings a tear to my eye to bait and switch you, then kill a character. It's something I genuinely enjoy. We also had some fun cameos. The Justice Society, I've wanted to do something with them for a long time. This was just a fun little cameo, really. All this stuff is very much in line with the comic origins for these characters. With they're nothing. It's not. It's not even remotely the same. But there's some stuff like the scientists. He's comic accurate. But anyway, yeah. So not to repeat the poster of the movie that this villain will be a villain in, but they're fucked. I think that little segment where you get to see him getting his powers really says it all. This is gonna be closest in line to like the Thunderbolts versus Sentry level of villain matchup. The Get Out guys are fucked. They have no chance. So I hope you aren't too attached to them. I really hope you aren't, because it's just going the way of the Thunderbolts too. Anyway, I'll see y'all then, sooner than you might think. Oh, you thought I missed Halloween. Oh, no, 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 no. The real horror for fans of my characters is just beginning. You thought I was slowing down on the murder of characters you love. You thought I said, oh, Justice League Dark isn't going to be that one. This is more of a character-driven study. It's not going to be a lot of character deaths. Oh, but the Get Out guys are so iconic now on this channel. You wouldn't kill them. I mean, you wouldn't do that, Bjorn. We'll see. I'll see y'all then.